Today I'm going to be talking about the Ave Maria or the Hail Mary prayer. And if you have not watched the first video, the opening daily prayer, the Our Father, this video will make more sense in tandem to watch that video first. And I've started a playlist of me talking about some of the prayers that I'll be adding this one into. So hopefully I can run through this and have it in one take. In the Kardec book, it doesn't actually get into the breaking down this prayer like they did the Our Father, and I'm kind of surprised that they do it in Kardecian Spiritism because first of all, they were spiritual Christians, so they weren't like hardcore literal Christians. But they are definitely have sentiments of their Victorian era, which obviously is the dominant, European culture at the time, and is definitely still influenced by that type of thought. But I also didn't necessarily think, that they might have been Catholic, being French and stuff like that, because, being French Catholic, but in terms of the rest of Europe, and then also in the spiritualist churches in America, as we became more Puritan and the Anglican, all the history because of Henry VIII and wanting to marry all those wives, and basically also divorcing the Vatican is partially how we got all these other basically Christian sects after Catholicism, and the rejection of, excess idolatry in terms of having, Mary, and having a lot of the iconography, having a lot of all, gold plated stuff, and, all the beautiful, glass windows and stuff as people were starving, or basically became very pared down, even though the cross can be arguable, also a graven image and all that. But I'm digressing now. So it didn't really get into that in the book. And also, I'm not saying like what I'm saying is 100% what you need to believe, because there's different schools of thought, and I believe more in a Gnostic way and grew up Catholic in all my background. So this is for your own understanding, for you put your own connections together and study things more, right? Okay. So let's get into the prayer. So, Hail Mary is the beginning of the prayer. So, hail means basically hello. It's Old English. In Middle East, they probably didn't have people named Mary. Then I'll get into forms of that, but, and John, things like that. So there's obviously subsequent influences and rewriting of things. And it just basically meant respect. So we say like Mefarafun the Sarisha or whatever, just like saying respect, putting respect on Mary's name. It's saying salutations, like giving a salute, hail, hail and welcome. People are trying to put that now on other spirits and stuff, but it's basically an acknowledgement, and we're getting into acknowledgement of Mary, her being elevated, basically her stature spiritually because of, her life, but also in other ways. So we'll get into that though. It's kind of like when Loa come in our services and they say like bonsoir la sociedad, like they're just saying like hello basically to everybody that is there. And so we are saying, basically acknowledging the presence of her, or like our spirituality when we're praying. It's an acknowledgement. We're going to get into who and what we're respecting and acknowledging in terms of Mary, who she was and stuff. But I don't want to get ahead of myself where we are at in terms of the prayer. So, Hail Mary, full of grace. Now, full is like plenty, like the horn of plenty, fecundity, fertility, abundance, full, blessed. Your cup runneth over, full of grace. Grace means mercy and compassion for us. And I'll get into, because we're praying to her, asking, but also in her functions. I'll get into that in a second. But grace, think of like, Grace Kelly was a dancer, or being classy, or moving gracefully. Just in the way maybe you move your arm or pick up something, having some kind of style, having class. We say gracia, which means thank you, which also grace, to say grace. Um, at dinner, when we say a prayer of thanks. Why thanks usually is for plenty, for Thanksgiving is usually for harvest, right? And so you can see how these words all tie together. La misericordia, gracia, la misericordia, we say for like Loa. So we say like thanks for the mercy, basically. Misericordia for the misterio. Also, so songs for the Loa and 21 division that we also use in Sanse. If you know the songs, Gras, Marian Gras, Gras, Marian Gras, Misericordia, San Nicola. So we're saying Grace, Mary, Grace. Thank you for the mercy, basically like the 21 divisions, Saint Nicholas, under Saint Nicola, Grand Solier. That road of light that all the Loa walk, basically. So you can say we're saying Grace, Mary, Grace, Grace, Mary, Grace when we're even singing some of these songs, because like I said, to tie back to the first video, these are opening prayers. They open the way. We're using them before we contact spirits, sort of an opening of the way. And how I got into the cross with the male and the female together. And we're going to get into a little bit more about that. So really, we're talking about divine feminine. And people were talking about the cross before, how it's, a sexual symbol. And it can be, and it is, spiritually, like I said before, the world tree and our pillar in our temple and stuff like that. Together, but that's also thinking very mundanely and physically and materially or carnally, or like in beast mode thinking. Basically, you're not thinking, spiritually, because even when we're talking about things like gender, we're talking about more and more about polarity. And polarities are things like hot and cold and stuff like that too. These are very spiritual principles, and you can't just think physically about these things. But we look at nature and we look at our world, and that's how we reflect, basically, spiritual the spiritual state that manifested everything, basically, in energy, basically. Okay, so we are monotheist, and Christians are monotheist, but originally Jews were not. Jews had a goddess. They were polytheist. They were, for all intents and purposes, were Canaanites, were Babylonians. Then they had some Zoroastrian influence, and probably had some kind of exodus around and had other influence happening, and became monotheist, basically. It changed over time. Now, people say that evidence that this is Astarte or Shira, being Yahweh's wife, is weak. Even when we look back at Baal as a term meaning Lord for Yahweh, even though people say that's foreign gods and antithesis, they shared the similar, names and origins and epitaphs. But even when we look within Kabbalah, again, because that's what I'm using to also explore these concepts, we have the Ama and the Amma of dark and light. So there's basically just darkness, and then we have the light of creation, and that's the dark night sky with all the stars in the sky, of like the Egyptian Nuit, sort of like the aspect more of Isis and stuff like that, as the co-creatrix, basically, the more the dark mother, the primordial, goddess, mother of God, So the mother of God indicates that, someone had to birthed God, Um, for all intents and purposes, again, Jesus is Yahweh because Christians don't have multiple gods. Just that was an incarnated aspect, I guess, for them. They're not thinking magically. Same thing, Krishna said to pray to Kali, and the Divine Mother as well. Later, Mary gets titles like the Queen of Heaven, and we see other goddesses like Inanna had that epitaph as well. Above the head of Isis is a five-pointed star, and also on many Marys, you can see stars above her head, or Columbia. I forget the other name as well. But when you look at the movie company Columbia, there's like sort of a woman, and that, for all intents and purposes, there was goddess called kind of like Columbia, like columns, great columns, and that also translates to dove. And it also translates to the column, also translates to tomb. So the womb and the tomb is the earth that births, basically. If you have sex, that's basically death because it births life, but now you incarnated and were born to die. So death and life are kind of two sides of the coin there, and there's the darker aspects to the feminine as well as the masculine. Okay, the Lord is with thee, and also the 5 points of the star is many things. It's Mars and Venus, masculine, Venus, feminine, sex again, but also the body again, the four elements, and spirit again, right? So it's the same thing with the Fibonacci spiral. Even when you look at Venus in the night sky, she makes a pentagram. So all these things are connected and can be seen, comparatively. Hope I'm not losing anybody here yet. Okay, the Lord is with thee. So where? In heaven. So God, Lord, is in heaven. So Mary's there too, right? Co-throne, co-ruling. And you'll also see this with our Loa, that often they're with a spouse or with another female Loa and their family to balance out this force and this manifestation, and also on your altars and stuff like that, so that you can have, we're using these creative forces, for magic, basically. Also, within Egypt, we had, Isis, Horus, and Osiris, and the Black family and the mother. Basically, that was very holy, and that is what preserves humanity. Basically, is having strong, having strong family units, having strong society. That's how we're going to keep teaching and evolving as a society. But in terms of divinity and Mary's divinity and all that, they just even voted that Jesus was even divine, maybe 1,000, 1,500 years ago, something like that, like 700, 900 years after Jesus was supposedly even alive. Council of Nicaea in Rome's like, let's vote on this. So these are really just examples to follow, and also metaphors, because of her faith and dutifulness, or because of love, etc. So the cross of the four elements is basically a human impaled upon it, is our spirit entering this earth, and upon all the trials we go under. Back in the day, even doves were given to Aphrodite or Venus. They were slammed basically on a spike on this cross thing. And they even sacrifice snakes, or on more like a Gnostic T of like the three elements. Tau actually wasn't originally a four-armed cross. And I digress again, but the divinity is within you. Like David Icke said that I'm Jesus, and media freaked out and made fun of him, right? And he says some good things and some funny things, but it's true, because in the Bible, Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within you, like basically that, you will do greater things than I, to his disciples, and all these other things, right? So what does that tell you? It's more like a state of mind in heaven and all that, even when I went into that in the first Our Father video. Fruit of thy womb, Jesus. So we're talking maternal bloodline, tracking heritage, because when a baby comes out of a woman, that's her child, but who's the father, right? And back in the day, that's how they tracked it, was that child came from that woman, and they did, certain royal families and stuff, watch them, have sex to make sure that probably came from that royal guy or whatever, or during the birth, to make sure there wasn't any switching going out or the child died or whatever. So because that's all financial, and wars and everything all got tied up in that. So also your fruit, know them by their fruits in the Bible. So also her good works, she's a good woman, she did good actions, she's a good person. And also we say that spiritually, that when a spirit talks to us, it's a good spirit if it gives us good suggestions, and then therefore influence us to do good action. So that's the fruits of our labors, you know. But she was human. She didn't know she would be trekking around, going to a manger. She was very young. There's some mediumship possibly, or an angel, just supposedly Gabriel, possibly came along. But she became blessed and elevated. She, during her assumption, she basically ascended up into heaven. I'm not even sure. I don't even think she had like a real physical death. So she is Holy Mary. She did suffer in childbirth though. And so she did have original sin, if you're going to be literal about the Bible, that she can be seen as, an octave of Eve, just like every woman. Also, human brothers would also sleep with their other brothers' wives if they couldn't conceive. This was seen in the Old Testament. And there's the alchemical marriage. Again, this is spiritually thinking, the marriage of earth and spirit in one human body. We both have male and female principles in one human body. And that is seen in the tarot, the Fool's Journey, and between like the princes and the pages, and the empress and the emperor, and stuff like that. So people want to think romance, again, mundane and stuff. So out of the nothing came something, and then the something had to have a form, or was just limitless, going everywhere. So that made three. So a baby made three, but also you have the triangle of the Trinity that makes form. And then again, that's Saturn. Venus was both love and war, like a lot of these female spirits or goddesses, Freya, Ishtar, etc. So she's a warrior against bad spirits as well. We can be seeing these feminine aspects or octaves again between Earth, then the Moon, then Venus, and then Saturn, basically. Although Saturn has the old man aspects to it. There's a little bit of yin and yang and everything. Such as for the Moon, you expect that to be very female, but the talismanic image for Golden Dawn is a naked young man. So she's married. She's a major intercessory saint. So she's not just Mary. She's actually a saint. So she prays for us, because we're asking her to pray for us. So we can pray for spirits to help them. We can pray for other people to help them. But actually, the saints and the other spirits can actually pray. Some of them can pray for us too. Just like normal deads, they might not be able to do a lot for us, but she is of a hierarchical, elevated state. She can actually intercede for us. She has the ear of Jesus, a very important person. She's a wife to a very important person. So she has the ear of the politics and diplomacy to get around. And in a woman's world too, when or certain power groups that don't have, direct, she's kind of a mitigator. And also, so souls in purgatory, she has some kind of aspects around that. Some people kind of want to make her a queen of hell, but that's going a little, crazy with some of the factions of these modern sorcerers now, trying to make some kind of Catholic folk hoodoo going on there. But, in death, she will comfort us as well. And that's very mothering. People cry for their mom that sit on the battlefield, stuff like that. There's certain aspects coming up. We have Candelaria, February 2nd. I think that's Virgin Carmel, which we also, some of us sync with like Oya and stuff like that. And again, has connotations with purgatorial spirits or the dead and stuff like that. Again, in the Bible, there's Marian mysteries too, like Magdalene. In the Bible, there's several Marys or Marthas. There's Virgin of this or for that used in folk magic. Just like there's multiple Jesuses though. So again, we're not trying to make this a pantheon with a whole bunch of Marys or anything like that. There's really only one Jesus. There's really only one Mary in Catholicism and Christianity. But it's interesting though, because you can use different ones for different aspects. Like Mary, undoer of knots, is good for undoing bindings or obstacles in your life, etc., or not magic work people might do on someone. The witch's ladders. Okay. But there's something to be said for wands and Marias, like in Umbanda and as a spirit commission, that a lot of slaves and people were given, again, Christian names. So they lost a lot of their identity. And then they became like whole, like legions of spirits, basically, like Johns and Marys. So basically, again, a male and a female, spiritual intelligence. They said Miriam. Miriam is a form of Mary. In the Bible, it was more in the Old Testament, meant bitter waters. Mary also means a marine, matter, mater, or mother, ma. Laws again, which is more Saturn in aspects of restriction, ma'at. It's the celestial ocean again of, and they call us in Kabbalah, it's the sphere of Binah, Saturn. Even Wiccans say, Mary meet, Mary part, and Mary meet again. And this is souls. They just say it like as a greeting, but it's really souls, and it's the ocean meeting the shore and parting back again. And the challenge is for us to recognize each other when we come back in reincarnation. When we look at the sphere of Venus, you would expect it to be a watery realm in Kabbalah, but actually has the fire, the flame in the temple, because her number is 7. So the stars and stuff as well above her head, it also indicates the 7 basically classical planets. We have the days of the week and the rainbow spectrum and all this. Because Venus rules the incarnation of souls in and out of nature and in and out of the body. That Cancerian type of crab. And our incarnations. So Mary is the bloodline cup. She is the grail, because that's the womb basically. And then we're getting into those type of conspiracy theories, but there are actual relics held in France from Magdalene. It said that she came with Saint Sarah Calais. Now we also hold that as a legend, who is the saint of more Roma people, and that she had a child who I believe was a girl in France, basically, after Jesus has died and stuff like that. Because it said that, she would have been persecuted for that. Also, she's possibly a spiritual inheritor. She was with her Mother Mary, or, the Marys were with Jesus all throughout his crucifixion, were the first ones to see him when he popped out of the tomb. It was the first ones he appeared to. Everybody was jealous. He would kiss her on the mouth. She was one of the most loved. It's rumored that she's beside him making the V in the Last Supper painting. And even Judas with jealousy is seen as feminine. He betrayed Jesus with a kiss, and he got the 13 pieces of silver, which again is the number of the moon and is very silver as correspondences there. These prayers open the way again to spirits, and opening the way is usually done to open to known spirits, to your guides, to your good helping ancestors, or again, the spirits of light were the ones being addressed, or we're trying to address these mainly as well, even as Cruzado. But Kardec was trying to contact only like the highest spirits of light. So there's other things and there's other process to do. Like if they came across a bad spirit, they would just stop the session, right? But we're more into processing these problems and these spirits and stuff like that. And there's other more intensive methods that obviously are done around necromancy or done around these issues, and things like a rosary more intensive prayers might be done in contacting unknown spirits. So just a caveat. Um, but the opening of the way, obviously, opening a vagina, the Vesica Pisces, and all that. Not to be crude, but a woman is a gateway. It's the womb, basically, spiritual gateway channels. It's like a lock and a key, basically, male and female parts, in a socket and plugging it in the wall. It's projecting force, and then it's accepting force or absorbing force, yin and yang. I was thinking about the movie, the original Ghostbusters, where there's that woman who's like was saying like she's the gateway or the portal or whatever, and I don't. It's funny why I'm even saying that, but the dove descending, basically getting back to the dove thing, and the Holy Spirit coming down basically is like fire. Again, there's a fire kind of aspect to it. Baptist, charismatic, Pentecostal churches are speaking in tongues, being anointed again on your head. But we even say like Freda is the woman at the gate. She is the woman at the house. She's not the woman at the market, but people will come by with their wares to the house, basically, and she controls who goes, basically comes in and comes out, basically. I'm almost done. So in letters of creation, so basically there was the word in the beginning, and people try to say the Bible is the word, but we have the letters of the alphabet, and this is also tacked on to tarot, the Psalms, and Kabbalah at a later point in time. But Hebrew letters are also fascinating and is a more modern alphabet. But when we're looking at I got a little lost there, but oh, the body. Okay, so when we're looking at the letters of creation, so A alpha is actually silent. It's actually a silent letter of air and of breath. So there was just silence, and then there's like a big bang of creation, basically. So A is said to be more akin to like Yahweh, God's hand, maleness, basically, and silence. And then B is more like the body, and it looks like boobs and a belly, basically, of bread, Bethlehem. But also the Holy Mother Church and the body of the church, all the members that make up the body, all the saints, and all the congregation, basically, as well, all the spirits as well. And you can really see this on the tarot card, the Three of Coins, marriage, union, the church, plans, laws, contracts. And then just one other thing about back to espiritismo. We have some of the cantos for the misa. You can hear Los Nannies, the CDs and stuff like that. We have a song, Ave Maria. Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. Ave, Ave, Maria. So you might want to go listen to that song. It's talking about celestial powers. And that song is also a lot of the nuns and the monks commission, the spirit guides like that. There's a whole commission of spirits that are priests, nuns, monks. Monet has, they say, and they're associated with that as well. And then there's also, the classical, obviously the, opera song, more like the Ave Maria, which I will spare you some opera singing. But my whole point about that is that we say pomba gira. Pomba gira. Again, now we're talking about Kimbanda, Brazil, ATR, but we say dove turn, pomba gira, dove turn, basically. Why? Because the dove makes a spiral, that's a whole symbol in itself. But when, again, the dove is basically metaphor of spirit coming down onto a person to pass a spirit. We don't like to say possession, but get mounted by a spirit. And also the turns of a spirit. So a spirit might have many paths, and we say when it turns around, takes a turn, then it shows like another face of the spirit, basically. But also the dancing, the whirling dervishes and the spinning movements as well. So I hope you guys found this really fascinating. Hopefully you didn't get too lost. And if you have anything else you would like to add, any other questions, anything else, then please do so. And I'll be continuing to make videos. If you have any requests, hit me up. Thanks, guys.